Well, welcome back to another Monday Musing. My name's John, and a few weeks ago we were looking as a church at a passage from James where James reminds us about the power of words, the power of the words we use, the power to destroy and pull down and spoil and hurt. The words we use can do that, we know, but it also reminds us that the power of our words to lift people up, to do wonderful, wonderful things, to build people up, to help, to heal, to restore. The words we use can have good and bad consequences, we know. So we've got to be careful about the words we use. Here is the message from James, read to us by Vicky.
Taming the tongue. Not many of you should become teachers, my fellow believers, because you know that we who teach will be judged more strictly. We all stumble in many ways. Anyone who is never at fault in what they say is perfect, able to keep their whole body in check. When we put bits into the mouths of horses to make them obey us, we can turn the whole animal, or take ships as an example. Although they're large and are driven by strong winds, they are steered by a very small rudder, wherever the pilot wants to go. Likewise, the tongue is a small part of the body, but it makes great boasts. Consider what a great forest is, set on fire by a small spark. The tongue is also a fire, a world of evil among the parts of the body. It corrupts the whole body, sets the whole course of one's life on fire, and is itself set on fire by hell. All kinds of animals, birds, reptiles, and sea creatures are being tamed and have been tamed by mankind. But no human being can tame the tongue. It is a restless evil full of deadly poison. With the tongue we praise our Lord and Father, and with it we curse human beings who have been made in God's likeness. Out of the same mouth come praise and cursing. My brothers and sisters, this should not be. Can both fresh water and salt water flow from the same spring? My brothers and sisters, can a fig tree bear olives or a grapevine bear figs? Neither can a salt spring produce fresh water.
James reminds us about the power of the tongue, the power of the words that we use, that this muscle, the tongue, however small it might be in proportion with the rest of our bodies, we know it can have such an impact in our lives and in the lives of others. And James describes the tongue as being like the bit in a horse, the little metal bit that the rider will control the horse by pulling on the rein, which sort of press in on this metal bit. And amazingly, this racehorse or this big horse can be controlled by it. And then a ship's rudder, whatever size the ship is, the rudder is a very small part of the ship. And yet, by controlling that rudder, it can control where the ship goes. And also James talks about the tongue being potential of creating a spark that can create a forest fire, that can destroy all the goodness in that forest. Well, we know that the tongue can have a positive impact in others. We know it can make such a great difference in other people, but we also know it can also destroy and damage and hurt and do lots of bad things. And it's important that all of us really consider the words that we use and the words that we hear when we choose to switch off and ignore those harmful words that are said or sung or that we read that actually aren't good for us or aren't good for anyone. So we have a responsibility to watch what we say and think about what we say, but also what we hear and what we read and the words that we see online on screen. Well, the two words that I absolutely love when I hear and I encourage myself to say when it's appropriate are the words sorry when I get things wrong, when I say things wrong, when I say things at the wrong time, in the wrong way, maybe the wrong Maybe I say them with the wrong the wrong attitude, so they come out perhaps with some anger or some annoyance, even if the words are okay. The way I say them is poor and inappropriate. So I need to say sorry, and we all need to say sorry when we get it wrong. We do. And these words, thank you. The importance of saying thank you, of recognising the good in others, and the good when other people help by what they say and what they do. And by using those words, thank you, it can make such a difference in other people's lives. They can feel so valued and so appreciated, and their self-worth can be increased when we acknowledge the good in them and say thank you for who you are and what you do and what you say and the benefit that you make in my life and in others. So thank you and sorry are important words, and when we use them in the right place, they can have such a positive impact in other lives, in other people's lives rather. Well, I'm going to finish now Monday Musing by saying thank you. Thank you to someone in particular, and it's thank you to Callum. Callum, one of our church family, will share now some thoughts about the power of the thumb or the finger, using social media for good and the impact it can have, the way it can influence others. So, Callum, thank you for sharing your thoughts. You are amazing. You are an inspiration, you really are. Over to you, Callum, and I'll hope to see you all next week.
I've not spoken, though, about social media. And someone who knows a lot more about that than I do is Callum as a young person. And he's going to come up now and say something about the influences on social media. Callum, over to you.
Okay, so this week Jeff is talking about the use of the tongue, but I'm going to be talking about the use of the thumb, or index finger if you're over the age of 40. So, as a resident Zoomer, Jeff has asked me to talk about social media and the impact that we have on others when we interact online. So, on most social media platforms, the aim is to get followers. You want more people to be able to see the cool things that you have to say, or make, or draw. The exception to this is a site called Reddit, where the aim is to have as little followers as possible to prevent anyone from knowing that you have an account on Reddit. But the problem with this idea of getting as many followers as you can is when it doesn't do as well that you hoped, when it doesn't get as many clicks, or follows, or fake internet points as you hoped, then you start to attach that to your self-worth, even if it's just the result of a mindless algorithm. And you start to believe that the content you make, or even the shape of your own body, is inadequate. I fell into this trap 3 years ago when an animation which I'd spent a month making only got 2 views. And I was upset because, in comparison, a 25-second video of a man turning his TV on had 3.4 million views. And in a situation like that, you have to remember that these things are temporary and they can change really easily. And so the best way to place your worth in a situation like that is in the fact that you're loved by Jesus. So that's the effect that your words online can have on your own identity. But there's also the impact that big figures with tons, millions of followers have on other people. So one of the issues with having lots and lots of followers online, and the reason why I'm happy with only having 78 subscribers, is the massive responsibility that they have in regards to how they interact with their fans. Because when someone has millions of fans listening to their every word, especially if this fan base is made of impressionable people who are barely old enough to use the internet, they have to be really careful with what they say. Online, there tends to be this culture where a very vocal group of people can revolve their entire identity around a certain person or group, and they can sometimes be very aggressive against anyone who dislikes this person or group. We denizens of the internet call this stan culture, which is a combination of stalker and fan. But while I don't think anyone here is a viral internet sensation, besides the Weft Church YouTube channel, of course, it's important how we use our words too. Because there might be people who look up to us or see us as a representative for Christianity in our work or school, and even though you might not be influencing millions of people, the words you use might be what shows others the difference that Jesus has made in your life. So the last point that I have is how we interact with others online. So obviously the passage we just read was talking about how the tongue can't be tamed, But sometimes one of the things that kind of reels it in a little is the fact that you know who you're talking to. So you think, oh, I can't be mean to this guy, he's my friend. Or I have to go to school with this guy, so I should probably somewhat tolerate his existence. And on the internet, a lot of the time, the only identity that you can find when you're interacting with someone is a silly username and maybe an animated profile picture. But when you take away the face-to-face interaction, you forget that the other person on the other side of the screen is someone who's also loved by God. And regardless of how different their opinions are on whatever pointless debate is happening on the internet, or even in real life, you have to treat them with the respect and love that Jesus would also give them. Thanks.